This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastery, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Hey, hold on a second, Jerry. The lights in the workshop are supposed to go on when we walk in.
That's what I thought, too. All I can see is the glow of all the computer monitors.
There we go.
I didn't know we had a big swivel chair in here.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, hey, Phil.
Wow, look at this place. Everything's organized. Everything's alphabetized by book height.
Of course. That's what I intended all along. A place for our tools, a place for our beverages, and even a place for guests. You've been watching all of my plans, even helping me from time to time without even knowing.
Yeah, of course we helped.
Yeah, that's what friends do.
Ah, yes. But now, everything is perfect, and the time is right. Now is the time to podcast.
Well, okay then.
Well, it is a brilliant plan. And with that, welcome to the 415th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we discuss Masterminds, how to use them, how to set them up, how to play along with them. We will also check in with the chat room for life and get your suggestions and comments before jumping into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. All right, kids. You know the drill. Before I can let you in, we got to have temperature checks. Phil, how you feeling?
Yeah. Physically, I'm fine. Mentally, I am trash fire.
Mm-hmm.
I am bubbling up with dread based on last night's Supreme Court nomination, and just am full of anxiousness, anxiety, etc. Is the election approaches. I cannot allow myself to have any amount of hope. So I have closed off all hope from my heart, which is kind of taking its toll. And then on top of it, just watching COVID numbers spiking everywhere, right? I mean, just before the show started, I just took a look at our local COVID numbers, and they jumped by a percent point since last night. We're just shy of a microcluster, which in our state means that state health department shows up and starts testing everything in a zip code. Mm-hmm. Which I don't begrudge our state at all, but also masks.
Come on, people, mask up.
Yes,
get your food for takeout and stop eating in restaurants. Just take it to go. Anyway, I'm full of dread, and I'm itchy and restless about. I just looking for a game to mess with, and I just nothing seems to be ringing my bell. I was going through my PDFs, and I'm sure this is some form of mild depression or something. So physically good, mentally not so great. Not to be a downer, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Jer, how about you?
I'm doing okay. It's been I'm in teaching week, so every day I'm getting to work early, and then I'm on for the whole day. So I'm standing and walking around and talking. So I'm not having time to think about a lot of things till I get home at night. So it's not bad. I'm doing okay, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, I'm feeling okay. This weather is actually physically, the weather's killing me. It's up and down all the time. I've got chronic sinus allergies. You guys can probably hear me sniffling once in a while.
Sure.
So when the weather is hot, I'm okay. When it's cold, I'm okay. When it's sunny, I'm fine. When it's rainy, I'm fine. But when it decides to change every 30 seconds, like it's been the last couple of days, it just throws me all over the place, and that's what gets me.
My arm is actually my arm's been actually bothering me a whole bunch. The change in temperature and pressure has been aggravating my arm, which is just also leading to like this low level discomfort. So maybe not as physically good as I thought.
Yeah.
Bobo.
Yeah, it's there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that going around. I've been kind of having similar feelings to you. There's some dread. I usually do a pretty good job of holding off the complete, wallowing in existential dread kind of feeling. But it's been kind of ramping up a little bit with the news from last night and where everything's going, and it's just it's worrisome.
I really it's pushing me into a place where I just want to I want to run either Underground or Sigmata. I just want to run something about killing fascists. That's I literally that's all I got right now. Given the choice, I think I'd like to play something where fascists get put up against the wall. I don't know.
Yep. Other than that, physically feeling pretty good. My neck has been mostly cooperative this past week, so that's good. My sinuses are a little bit cranky. There's got some dust stirred up in the house today. The housemate was doing some cleaning and straightening some stuff up, so some extra dust got kicked up. So I'm a little bit off of there. But other than that, not bad. So all right, we can head into the house where we can do our thing, our one thing. Let me get the ball rolling on this. So I have been, of course, watching Star Wars Rebels. I am now into season 2 by a few episodes. Season 2 kind of cranks things up a notch. You get to see some old friends from Clone Wars, which I really appreciated. I really like the show. I like where they're going with it. I like the crew. And I really, really, really want to play a Star Wars Rebels campaign now. Yes. It's the Firefly that I didn't get when we actually played Firefly. Firefly/Serenity, it's almost the same thing, but this is in the Star Wars universe. So it's that much cooler because it's got Jedi.
How far into Rebels are you?
I'm 3 or 4 episodes into season 2.
Okay.
After they've, gotten they've expanded the world a little bit. Let's put it that way without.
Yep. That's cool. That's very cool. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff that was set up in Clone Wars that now comes home to roost in Rebels in a big way. And you're probably seeing some of that already, which is great.
Yeah. So that's what's been occupying part of my time.
That's awesome.
What about you, Phil?
I think for me, I've been continuing my voyage through Voyager, right? And I'm in season 5 of Voyager, and I am really glad I hung on, and I'm really glad I now understand that I'm just not as much of a fan of Michael Pyler's stuff as I am of other people that take over his stuff. So Jerry Taylor is the showrunner and head writer, I think, that takes over Voyager after Pyler leaves to go do Generations, another movie that I am lackluster on. And I am watching, these episodes are good. They are really good. And for me, this is this is where the show hits its stride. And I shouldn't be surprised because Jerry Taylor also took over for season 5 of TNG, which I have also said in the past is peak TNG. And so just really enjoying Voyager in a way that I was so down on it when it first came out. And rightfully so. The first couple of seasons are kind of but it has hit a really sweet spot. And each episode is starting to become a real treat. So that's given me a little bit of life. And then, I've also, been keeping up on our DS9 stuff. So we're in season 4 of DS9. And so Jerry's going to talk about, I think, that a little as well. I also love this section of DS9 as well. So go ahead, Jerry, take it from there.
I watched, my one thing was DS9. Watched all the episodes we had, plus most of the suggested episodes. Just a lot of fun. If you haven't seen this week's episodes, especially this, I actually like the secondary episodes better than some of the main episodes. There's some really good, all of them were top-notch episodes. Little Green Men is just amazing. It's the Ferengi. You get to see Ram, Quark, and Nog pretty much by themselves for the most part, solving major problems when they get sent back to Roswell by mistake. And Quark's commentary about human culture is dead on and accurate. And to see Ram being his super technical genius self that nobody seems to acknowledge, and Nog as the burgeoning Starfleet officer that he's going to become, where he's smart and clever, which are different things, and then actually throws down a bit. You get to see Nog get a little physical here and show off his skills. It's a brilliant episode. Followed by Our Man Bashir, which is it's Julian Bashir stuck in a James Bond holodeck with Garrick stuck in there with him, watching Julian Bashir pretend to be a spy when Garrick actually was a spy. And
not just any spy, a James Bond 1960s 007 era spy.
Oh yeah, the names of the characters, was it Honey Bear is one of the scientists. I can't remember the name of his assistant, but it's basically like a lot of girl legs or something like that. It's something very James Bond.
The last name of the character that Kira was stuck in was On and Off.
Yes, it was yeah, and On and Off. Yep, yeah. It's it's brilliant.
It's tropey as hell, and it's funny.
So you can tell the actors are having a good time, especially Cisco as the villain, getting to basically chew things up as the criminal mastermind. Go ahead.
Which is very fitting for tonight.
Yes.
What I love about that episode, as a little aside, I did some research in preparing for the last week. When it was decided that they wanted to do Our Man Bashir, they wanted to do a holodeck accident episode, but they were aware that there are like too many holodeck accident episodes in TNG. So they wanted to do something like more unique. So it is actually a transporter accident meets a holodeck accident.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is one of those excuses, kind of like the one where we meet all of Jadzia's previous hosts. It's just an excuse for the actors.
Yeah, to have a blast.
Yeah, like to go play other characters and ham it up kind of thing. So, Our Man Bashir, it's not in the list because it doesn't actually impact any of the storyline. It's very much a bottle episode. Mm-hmm. But it is incredibly fun, which is why I put it as a recommended one to watch.
I would recommend it. I think it was an excellent episode. Plus, again, it's another, because O'Brien is also stuck in the holodeck. It's another Rom has to be the super genius thing that nobody acknowledges. It's another trope. I mean, if you were playing Rom as a character, he would have the flaw of unrecognized technical genius as one of his things, because it's just perfect for him.
So I'll just mention one last thing. You had talked about in Little Green Men, Quark's commentary on humanity. This is not the first time Quark has made very astute observations about humans in the Federation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back in the Jem'Hadar episode, he confronts Cisco about why Ferengi are better than humans.
Yep.
And then there's a great scene, I want to say it's in the opening of season 4 or the end of season 3, where Quark and Garrick are in the bar, and Quark makes Garrick try root beer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And he talks about how root beer's like the Federation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Really, like, Quark's commentaries are like really astute about those kinds of things. Yeah, they do a nice job
of writing him up. To give him lines like that. I would just like to say one more thing about that, the Our Man Bashir episode. My favorite thing about that episode is more of the Bashir Garrick dynamic.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And that whole thing where Bashir is trying to be the 60s super spy from the Bond era. Mm-hmm. And Garrick is like, no, that's not how spies work, because he was an actual spy.
Yep.
And that whole interplay for the whole thing. And then you get to the climax, and there's a piece where Julian takes and quotes Garrick.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Yep.
And it's awesome. It's a great moment.
The looks on Garrick's face all through the beginning of the episode is hilarious.
Yes. The whole episode is just brilliant. It was
good stuff.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it a lot. I think my favorite thing with Quarks is when they're talking about needing some sort of energy, and Nog tells them, oh, they've got fission energy. They've got fission bombs here. Fission, what would they be using? Why would anybody have a fission reactor on a planet? Oh, they use them as weapons. Wait, they lob nuclear engines at each other for weapons?
Yeah.
It's just the whole, like, they're irradiating their own planet. What idiots would do that?
The thing that's really interesting about the Ferengi, which is the part that messes people up, is that they're so backwards about women that you assume they're like backwards about everything else, but they weren't, right? Like, they're still awful about women, although just wait, we've got 3 more seasons of that arc to unfold. But they actually, like, they didn't get into like genocidal wars, in their own culture and stuff.
They're
like
super advanced in a lot of ways.
Yes,
well beyond what the humans were, and it's a little twist about the Ferengi, because you think because of the way they treat women that they're like some throwback to the 1950s, but like they're not exactly, right? No. It's there's a little subtlety there. Anyway, good stuff. Yeah. I think that means it's time for announcements, eh?
Yeah, real quick announcements. Right. Reminder: the DS9 Watch Club marches on. We are heading into the second of 4 weeks that will be in season 4, leading off with 2 really strong episodes tonight. These episodes, I actually think they're a little prophetic in that these episodes are like 5 years before 9/11. Like when you watch it with your post 9/11 eyes, and you will be a little shocked at just what transpires. Anyway, really good stuff there, and then the rest of the week is pretty solid. Again, still not too late to jump in if you have already watched the series. If you haven't watched the series, you really gotta take the self course.
Yeah, you're way better off starting at the beginning and doing self-learning if you haven't seen it. But if you have seen it, jump in with us at any time.
Absolutely.
Good time.
Where's the list for this week's shows?
Should be in the forum.
Should be on the forum. I do it every Sunday.
I don't see it. Weekly episode list aren't there. Oh, there it is. It's not in that part. It's listed separately.
I probably forgot to put it in the master list. I got to go fix that later.
Oh my God, right. We're not skipping any episodes this week. Nice.
No, there are no bonus episodes. There's literally no bonus episodes.
We're watching almost the entirety of season 4 in the watch party.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's beautiful.
All right. Last announcement. Just a reminder: we will not be live next week, which means that because that's election day.
Yep.
And which means that the subsequent Tuesday, a show will not drop.
Yeah, no live show November 3rd, no new show November 10th.
Thank you. We are, for reasons that I think are very clear based on our garbage mental health right now, we will not be trying to podcast the show while election results are bombarding us during the recording. That is a recipe for disaster.
Or at the very least, recipe for a mental breakdown.
I myself am going to probably immerse myself in some sort of Minecraft or media or something while only like tangentially listening, like coming up for air to hear where the election results are. I don't think I can watch a sustained coverage at all.
Yeah.
And then we still will be doing the watch party that evening. The watch party does not cease.
All right.
Yeah.
All righty. That's a lot of opening.
That is a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But you know what that means? It's time for. It's time for Phil to get his workshop on after he swallows that coffee.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Thank you.
All right. Let's do the thing here.
Masterminds in the workshop. The mastermind's going to put it all together, going to figure it out, going to make something you've never seen before. It's going to blow your mind. Your players are going to have to stop it before it goes out of control and ruins the world. It's the workshop, all about masterminds.
And don't suck.
No.
You actually went long on that one.
Yeah, sorry, I was making it up as I go.
That's all right.
I can't hear the music, so
When you can't hear the music, you gotta wing it. But usually you're pretty close.
Yeah, well, I kind of like came back around on a theme, and then like I don't know. My friends, those are not scripted. I make them up on the fly each time.
Those are bespoke bumpers, kids.
Yeah.
Phil, never apologize for being awesome. Remember that.
All right, Jerry, what's the deal with Mastermind, man?
All right. Well, last week we did a redo episodes on conspiracies. And during the show, as we often do, we came up with the idea to feature another iconic type of NPC, the Mastermind. So tonight, that's what we're going to do in a format similar to how we presented conspiracies last week. And to get this kicked off, we need the definition. Bob, I stepped on your lines. Go for it.
Stepping on my lines. All right. Well, let's give Phil the bumper for this one.
It's going to be one of those nights.
You are in the presence of definition panda.
Bum, bum. Yes.
Okay. So we got some definitions to set up. Not a ton. In fact, really, we've got multiple definitions for mastermind that we need to kind of go over and then kind of synthesize what we're talking about tonight. So the mastermind. First definition, someone who has exceptional intellectual ability and originality. Next definition, someone who creates new things. Third definition, a person who originates or is primarily responsible for the execution of a particular idea, project, or the like. I like all of these definitions. And I wanted to tease some things out of those individual definitions to start kind of building our definition. So first of all, it is a person. And I say person, but we're going to just say single being. It is a single being as opposed to a group, an organization, or a conspiracy, right? All of those have multiple people. Exceptional intellectual ability, right? This is the key part of the mastermind, right? Their main power is intellect, right? Their brain. Execution of ideas, projects, or the like. So they come up with ideas for doing things, but they're not, they come up with the ideas for doing things, but they're not always, well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves on that, right? So just keep that in mind, right? They can be the idea person, maybe not the execution person. A few media examples of masterminds, and there is no shortage of these. So we're just going to toss out a few. I'll start with one of my personal favorites, Hans Gruber from Die Hard. Orchestrated the entire Nakatomi event. I don't know what the hell to call it.
The Nakatomi Christmas event.
Yes, the Nakatomi Christmas massacre. And it's not a massacre. Theft. I don't know. It was foiled. Anyway, what do you got, Jer?
I've got the leader from Marvel Comics.
With a big green head.
Yep. He's almost never the one that goes slugfesting. He's always got plans upon plans that he's trying to pull off, often over dozens of issues before he gets what he wants to get.
Another personal favorite of mine, a movie that is near and dear to both my heart and Bob's, Kaiser Soze. Oh, you as well, Jer?
Oh, I love The Usual Suspects.
Oh, The Usual Suspects. We could have a whole episode where we just not talk about The Usual Suspects as not to ruin it for the youngins in the chat room. Yeah. But anyway, Kaiser Soze is very much a mastermind.
Mm-hmm. Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. He's always got plans within plans.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rick is the most awful of all masterminds.
Yep.
Not awful as in incompetent. I mean awful as in human being.
Yes.
He's horrible.
Listen. Either the car's going to start or I'm going to get myself another battery. Okay?
That is, if you watch Rick and Morty, that sums up everything you need to know about Rick Sanchez right there.
Yep.
Lastly, Jerry has it as Lex Luthor from Young Justice, but my goodness, Lex Luthor from almost every incarnation of Lex Luthor is a mastermind in some form. But in Young Justice, he is exceptionally well portrayed.
Yeah.
I put him on there because in Young Justice, he is open about his plans. It's just that you can't do anything about it because he's such a brilliant mastermind. He's always 3 chess moves ahead of you. He plans for what you're going to plan and will taunt you with the fact that he is the mastermind. You know,
right. What's his face from Watchmen also comes to mind. What's his face? I never say his name right.
Ozymandias.
Yes, Ozymandias. Like, you know, I mean, he's, you know, he reveals his whole plan and they're like, now we're going to stop you. He's like, yeah, but I did that 35 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to say that I did not expect, and I can't think of his freaking name now, the Lex from Supergirl.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on,
I don't remember his name.
I got it.
Oh, John Cryer?
John Cryer, thank you.
Yeah.
When they said that
I haven't seen him yet.
When they said that they tabbed him to be Lex Luthor on Supergirl, I was like, John Cryer? I'm like, because when I think John Cryer, all I can think of is Alan from 2.5 Men.
Right.
And that character
not a mastermind.
And this goes to show you the range that John Cryer has as an actor.
Yeah, one should never
a brilliant Lex Luthor.
One should never underestimate.
I gotta watch
John
that
Cryer.
one these days.
Yes,
No.
you should, because all of the Luthor episodes of Supergirl are awesome because of John Cryer. He's amazing. But back
Hey,
to
listen, never underestimate a man who faked being a high school student to avoid the Italian mob. Okay.
All right, let me now. All right, so this is good, right? So we've named a whole bunch of media examples across a whole bunch of movies, comic books, cartoon. Like we've named a whole bunch of them. So I think it's pretty clear what we're talking about. So, in an RPG, right, we can have masterminds in pretty much every genre imaginable, right? Like the ancient lich who's exploring the very boundaries of magic.
The head of the Interstellar Thieves Guild, who plans only the greatest heists.
A corporate AI who's organizing a hostile takeover of a rival corporation.
A supervillain looking to take over the city and at the same time undermine the reputation of all the heroes.
That sounds very, very mastermindy.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we understand what a mastermind is, we should learn more about what makes them tick. What can you tell us about that, Jerry?
All right. We're going to start by building off of Phil's definition. So we can start with the mastermind themselves. First, they're the person at the center of all of this.
Mm-hmm. Two, they have a superior intellect, right? They can have other powers, they can do other things, but their superior intellect is their main power. And they use this intellect to solve problems and create things.
The mastermind is going to have some sort of motivation. The mastermind might be righteous, using their intellect for some higher goal. This is Ozymandias from The Watchmen. He genuinely thought he was making the world a better place by creating peace, by killing off all those people and doing all those horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
They could be selfish, just using their intellect for their own desires. This is somebody like Lex Luthor. They could be nihilistic, caring for nothing, or wanting others to care for nothing. And they could just be motivated by revenge. And they could be motivated by a bunch of these. You could have somebody like Dr. Doom, who is both righteous and also motivated by revenge, you know. Richards! Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's, Dr. Doom's a great mastermind, right? Like, I mean, aside from all his powers, Dr. Doom is still the mastermind, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that, Jer?
We have one more suggestion from the chat room we should toss in here. Andy has mentioned Dr. Noah from Arman Bashir is a mastermind.
You know, I got to just say it on side right now. Yeah. I think I just got Dr. Noah. Not only is it a reference to, not only is it an homage to Dr. No, right? But the whole plot is about flooding the earth.
Yes.
Literally just caught that.
Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, that was on so many levels. It's a brilliant scene.
Yeah, it just just unpack it for a moment. There's a whole bunch that goes into that name. Anyway, a mastermind will also have a project / goal, right? They are using that intellect for something, right? So they got to do something with it. And this project is usually going to be something that furthers their motivations, right? So when you're building these, it's really important to know the motivation so that you can kind of understand the project.
A mastermind is also going to have resources, lots and lots of resources. Nearly all masterminds have some amount, but most of them have almost unlimited resources, vast resources, and often resources that the players don't have access to. Often their intellect has helped them to acquire them, either monetarily or by outsmarting people or by just creating them themselves. And then they use these resources to work on their projects and further their goals. They're not contented to sit back on their pile of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, a mastermind will have henchmen. This is not a full requirement. Some masterminds just roll up their sleeves and do the work themselves. But a lot of them will have other intermediaries that they can use, right? So if your mastermind's all about intellect, they may require some muscle for protection. And they may also need some henchmen to do the things like steal this, find that, kidnap that person, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to note the mastermind doesn't have to always operate in secret. Often their actions are out in the open, but the characters of the law may not know if they're actually what they're planning or what they're doing.
Yes. Now, if the mastermind is secretive, right, pulling strings behind the scenes, and we're very careful about the words pulling strings, that makes them more of a puppet master. And because we're on a roll here, we're going to be doing some more of these opposition profiles. And I think not next week because we're off, but the week after, we're going to do the puppet master.
We're turning this into a whole series.
It started with the conspiracy one, and then we spun off for that one the discussion about mastermind, which kind of spun off one about puppet master, and I'm having fun about having us talk about different types of oppositions and how to make them work in your game. I dig it. So yeah. That's the puppet master coming soon.
Now, in many cases, and more so when they're villains, the mastermind is amoral. They can be rooted in arrogance, and that their intellect puts them way above others, or they might just believe they're working for a higher purpose that others cannot understand. But in most cases, the mastermind's operating outside the law. And again, I'm going to go back to Asmodeus from The Watchmen, who basically thought that whatever his goals were, they were more important than his friends or the innocent people he was going to murder, because he thought that other people just couldn't understand how brilliant he was and that he knew what was best for everybody. Dr. Doom is the same way. Dr. Doom always believes that the world would just be a better place if people would shut up and let him be in charge.
Yes.
And he was not afraid to sacrifice other people for it.
Yeah.
It's the thing that makes the mastermind a very dangerous opposition in a game, is that the mastermind thinks that they are 100% correct, that they transcend the common morality, which allows them then to do horrible things. It opens them up to, these very large scale plans, flood the earth with water, start a nuclear exchange in order to bring about peace. It's the mastermind who can, rise up and be like, well, if 1 million people have to die in a nuclear bomb explosion, that's good for the whole planet.
Yeah. There's always a justification.
Yes. Yeah, the mastermind is, I guess that's the other part. In some cases, the mastermind considers themselves a villain, but in a lot of cases, the mastermind considers themselves the hero.
Yep. I'm doing this for everyone's best interest.
Yeah, there are definitely villain masterminds, but if you asked Doom if he was a villain,
Yep.
Like Doom, Doom would certainly not think of himself as a villain.
Doom is no villain. Doom is Doom.
That's it, right? And that's it, right? That's the whole thing right there, right?
That
like
is very Doom attitude.
I'll tell it in the after show. My favorite Doom story is in the lead up to the recent past Secret War. It's hysterical. Yeah. It's complete Doom. Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
Doom toots what he wants.
Yes.
So toot this horn when I want.
Now that we know more about who the Mastermind is, why do people like this character? Why do you think? What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I'm gonna do this from a personal thing because I don't think I can, tell everybody why you like Masterminds.
Yeah,
I can tell you why I can tell you why I like Masterminds, and you might agree. For me, I like Masterminds because I am fascinated by the superior intellect, competency, and plans. Right, that they, like the things that like kind of make them up. The Mastermind operates at a level beyond our own capabilities, right? They and seeing their machinations, like how everything falls into place and stuff, like I completely find alluring.
And I gotta agree with you on that. I really like the villain who's interested in more than just a physical beatdown. They want to come up with a plan. They want to outsmart, outwit, or prove their own intellect over the heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. The Mastermind, it can be like the planner of a heist, which means that like their heist is their project, right? And so I love heists. That's another reason I love Masterminds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For example, in Ocean's 11, we see Danny Ocean's elaborate plan for robbing 3 casinos, which is pretty amazing. What really blows our minds is that he's already anticipated the thing that appears to be unexpected for us. He's already figured it out. Because Danny Ocean, even though he's the hero, is also a mastermind.
Oh, he's totally the mastermind.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And technically, while he is the hero, he is also the villain, right? Like he's definitely
performing a criminal activity.
He is performing a criminal activity, and truthfully, he is performing it for completely selfish reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love Danny Ocean. He is the protagonist of that story, but I'm pretty sure he's the villain when it comes to, stealing the money out of 3 casinos.
He's definitely the protagonist.
The protagonist. Yeah. All right. So I think that's where we eat these kinds of bad guys up, right? It's when you think that they're about to fail and then they have the contingency plan that keeps them in control. Like I remember the first mastermind I ever fell in love with in any media, which was Hans Gruber. Right? I'm 15. I'm watching Die Hard. And the scene that sells me, and I love it every time I see it, is they're down to the last lock on the vault, right? Mm-hmm. And Theo's like, the magnetic lock came down, like there's no getting through it. And meanwhile, the FBI is like fully like cutting the power to the building. And Hans looks at him and is like, he looks at him and he's like, in response to a terrorist attack, they cut the building's power. And then like the vault opens up and, Ode to Joy is playing. Like it's the ultimate mastermind moment.
Yep.
Right. And as a kid sitting in the theater, like watching Hans Gruber, who already knew, like, of course the police are going to show up. Of course the FBI is going to show up. And not only, of course, we need them to cut the power to the building.
Part of the plan.
Right. Like it's it's so much more than what reality can provide. Yep. Like no one could pull that off. Right. But it's just, as a kid, I like soaked it in. I was like, I want to be this bad guy every time I'm a bad guy. That's what I want to be. Like, that's my kind of bad guy.
That's good stuff right there. And again, as we said, it really is about being smart and competent. That's the key.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, how do we portray an NPC who is likely far smarter than we are? How do we make the players feel that they're super smart?
Okay, this is going to be brilliance in planning, and it's tricky to make a mastermind really shine without just abusing the players doing it. So, we need to, as GMs, make the mastermind brilliant, they have to be competent, and they have to be a superior planner. And we all have to do this at a level that's generally above our own. No matter what level you have, the mastermind is better. But we've got some tips on how to emulate each one of these. So, Phil?
Yeah, so brilliant. Brilliant's probably one of the easiest to emulate, right? Mechanically, you're just going to give the mastermind a really high intellect score and a whole bunch of skills that are like super high, right? That's going to handle the mechanical side of the mastermind being brilliant, super easy. You're just going to write that down. Narratively, the mastermind knows all sorts of things, right? So they're going to know things about the players, which you can just draw upon your meta knowledge of all the players as the GM to impart this onto the mastermind, right? So you can just be like, I'm looking at Bob's character and I'm like, I see you use your sword left-handed, but you put too much weight on your back leg because I can see the scuff marks on your boot. And I can see that, your, left forearm is slightly larger, or, you have calluses on your left hand from where you hold your sword, right? Like that level of brilliance, right? That level of brilliance is just literally you as the GM, just, coughing up stuff about the players and making the NPC say it. But when the NPC says it, the player's like, oh, damn, right? Like, yep. They know a whole lot about me. Then the other thing is they're going to know a lot of things about the world that the average player doesn't like or doesn't know. And you just make that stuff up, right? I mean, you're the GM, you know more about this world than everybody else because you're providing the narrative of the world. So, yeah, I mean, you just make this up. Like, for instance, all of a sudden the mastermind turns to the players and is like, your pitiful minds do not understand anything about sub-boson interactions, nor am I going to try to explain it to someone who nearly failed high school chemistry. Right? I'll be honest right now, like my knowledge of physics stops off after my second semester of physics. I don't even know if there are sub-boson particles. Doesn't matter. There are in that game. And if your players are like, there's no sub-boson particles, guess what? The mastermind's smarter than your character. So yeah, there are.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's exactly
so brilliant. So brilliant's really not the hard one to emulate. How about competent, Jared?
Competence is going to be something else that when the mastermind does something, they're always going to have the means to get it done. Mechanically, they're going to have the right equipment, the right skill, the right tool. They're going to have the things they need to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. However, anything they encounter, they're going to be able to apply their intelligence to solve that problem. For example, the party damages their plane. And so now the starboard fuel tank is ruptured. They decide to roll the plane 45 degrees to port, and then they're going to bypass the fuel safety valves and drain all the fuel into the port tank and then close it off. Because they're that smart and they know how to do that sort of thing.
The mastermind.
Right,
yes. Right. The mastermind's like, the party's like, oh man, the starboard fuel tank's ruptured. And the mastermind's like, roll the plane, roll the plane. I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. Done. Idiots. Right?
Yes. Fools.
Right.
Fools.
So the superior planner, right? They're also a superior planner. And coming up with the perfect plan is another place where you, as the GM, just apply your meta knowledge, right? So the mastermind knows everything the GM knows, and has already come up with a counter for it. So is there a laser grid protecting the neutronium? Well, the mastermind has a device that reflects the beams and creates an archway they can walk through. You just take both of those, right? And just put them together. So whatever the initial plan is for whatever installation or whatever thing that the mastermind is trying to overcome, you just figure out what the natural defenses and obstacles are, then just come up with really creative ways that the mastermind has already figured out how to get past all those. And do it with a flair, right? The mastermind is smart. So, do it big. Don't just
go big or go home.
Yeah, don't just turn off the laser grid. That's boring, right? Deploy it's the size of a die, and he rolls it on the floor, and then it unfolds into this whole thing of mirrors that deflects all the rays and creates a pathway for him to walk through. That's mastermind level shit. Think big.
Or is it put out or put out 2 mirrors and deflect all the rays to form a pattern that puts all the rays into one location that then focuses that beam onto the lock that's holding the neutronium down. So when he walks over, it's already melted and he just picks up the neutronium and walks away.
Yeah, exactly.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Full on mastermind, right? That's exactly.
Yes. Effortlessly also.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So once the players get involved, it's going to be hard to pull this off because players are that random element. And so this is where you need to use your ad lib skills and kick them into high gear. When the players do something, you're going to have to make up how the mastermind is planned for that contingency. So, you use your trick shot to rupture the ship's exhaust line, causing toxic gas to vent onto Dr. Brain. Well done. But as the gas plug blows out and encompasses the doctor, you hear the sound of his armor sealing itself shut. The doctor looks at you. Ships are full of dangerous gases. Would it not be prudent to have a full environmental system on my armor? How about yours? Is it sealed as well? Is it sealed to the vacuums of space? And then he tosses a detonator onto the broken vent, causing explosion and a full hull breach. Good luck.
Well played, Dr. Brain. Well played.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty clear that the mastermind is going to be a form of opposition. What are some tips for getting the most out of them, Phil?
Yeah, so the main way you're going to use a mastermind as opposition, you're going to use them as opposition, and you're going to use them as either opposition in a story, an arc, or a campaign. Right? They're going to fit in any one of those 3 structures. Mm-hmm. And the overall goal with a mastermind, it's always twofold, right? It's stop their plan, and then defeat, capture, or kill them. Right? There's and sometimes that's in the same space. Sometimes that's in 2 separate scenes, locations, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And depending on the scale that you're using them at, you're going to kind of present these 2 goals a little differently.
So if you're doing just a simple single story, then the plan is going to be big, but nothing too outrageous, like a good heist. At the story scale, you can have the mastermind be a one-time problem and let them be defeated in the story, or they can use their introduction plan in to get away, and you can use them later on.
Yeah, absolutely. But mostly like they're in and out for that story. At the arc, the plan is bigger. The stakes for the plan are going to be significant, could have some serious impact on the campaign world. There'll likely be smaller encounters and smaller projects that the mastermind has executed in order to build up to the big plan. So one of the fun parts of this is for the players to piece together what all these projects are leading up to. And the more disparate the smaller projects are, like the better. Like he steals a piece of ceramic from an art museum. He steals a superconductor from, the science lab, and he steals like a super rare bottle of wine from the underneath of a restaurant or something. But somehow when all these come to are going to be put together in one plan.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I don't know what their plan is now.
Me too. Right. Me too. Right. I'm not sure, but but the more disparate it is, like the more the players are like, what? If the mastermind is like doing all these jobs and it's like, well, they're building an engine, right? Like they stole liquid helium, they stole a propulsion unit, and they stole a guidance system from 3 different tech companies. You're like, well, they're building a rocket, right? Well, I guess we know what we're looking for. Yeah, it's a little easy, and sometimes easy's okay, but you want to if you really want to shake them up,
you're going to have the players sitting there going, "What the frick is the bottle of wine for?"
Right.
Why did he steal the expensive bottle of wine?
Right. And then it should not be for what
celebration. It can't be.
Right. It should not be for what you think it is. It's got something to do with the ink used in the label.
Oh, no. Yeah, what you don't understand is that actually the map to the location of the secret gemstone power source is printed on the underside of the label.
Yep.
Absolutely.
On the wine. It's not the wine he's after, it's the underside of the label.
Actually, it's twofold. The label has the map, and then he trains the wine itself to his buddy mastermind for another part.
I'm going to take it up one notch. The actual map is inside the ceramic bowl, but he needs a specific pH and chemical composition to erode away the layer to reveal the map. And only this bottle of wine has that same chemical composition. Yeah. Okay.
And of course, and of course, all of this was designed by Leonardo da Vinci because, of course, it was.
Yeah, of course. Like the ultimate mastermind, right? Yeah. Okay. So in terms of pacing of this kind of arc level mastermind, it should mostly be about the plan, with the occasional sessions thrown in that are kind of the change of beats. Like you do the bottle episode, you do a character focused drama episode, but the bulk of your arc is really going to be moving along this story of trying to figure out what the mastermind's doing, and then the confrontation, and then finally, and hopefully maybe stopping them, maybe not.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then in the end, your mastermind could be defeated, or maybe they'll escape for a future return. My recommendation is, if you've done a whole arc, don't have them return the next arc.
Yeah.
Like that will just make the players feel like they didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
If you're gonna let them get away, let them lay low for an arc or two before you bring them back.
At the very least, one arc, maybe seed something in the next arc before you actually bring them in.
Yeah.
But give them at least an arc.
Schmitty's saying send them to prison. That's a perfectly good place to send them. They're going to escape anyway. They're the mastermind. Of course, they're going to escape.
Their whole plan from the prison.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Goes into Puppet Master territory.
Yeah. We're going to get to the Puppet Master.
I was going to say, when we get to Puppet Masters next session, we get to what I'll talk about the Puppet Master that I used for my D&D campaign, who ended up pretty much running the whole second season from prison. It worked that way.
Nice.
So you can do that.
That's called the El Chapo.
So if you're going to go from an arc, the next step up is going to be the campaign. And maybe your whole campaign is based on stopping the mastermind's plan, or stopping them because they're an existential menace. The plan should be epic. It should be, at the end of the day, this is going to bring around the end of the universe or major changes. At this point, as a GM, you should hold nothing back. There'll be smaller projects along the way, and these projects are going to show up throughout the campaign, but space them out enough so that you've got room for other arcs and plots, but eventually keep coming back until the point where the players are chomping at the bit to stop this guy or girl before it becomes a problem. So this is your whole campaign. At the end, the mastermind should be captured or defeated. You should end your campaign with, once again, the mastermind gets away.
Oh my! If you let the
whole campaign and they get away, your players are going to kill you.
Yes, if they murder you at the table, that is justifiable homicide.
Yes, absolutely. All right,
with one exception.
Yeah.
With one exception. If you end up the final campaign with a total party kill, then it's okay for the villain to get away until next campaign.
That's fine.
So yes.
Sure, okay. I'll give you that. All right, now, before we put this segment to rest, how would the mastermind work as an ally?
Sure. So it's possible to have a mastermind as an ally, but it's going to be tricky, right? The mastermind is a good mission giver / patron for the players. But what that effectively means is the players are now their henchmen, which you're going to have to find out if your players are going to sit comfortably with that, right? Like players may not want to be not at the top of the food chain. So that's definitely a discussion you want to have with them. The real challenge is you're going to have to use the mastermind and make them brilliant, competent, and superior planner without making the players feel the opposite of all three of those things, right? You don't want them to feel incompetent or unintelligent or unable to, put two tasks together. Because what's going to happen then is this is, like the worst case of the GMPC, right? Where the mastermind is so much smarter than the rest of the players that the players are running around doing stuff. But every time something is about to happen, it's like, oh, the mastermind intervenes. Like, already had a counter plan for that. I got you covered, guys. Like, the players will hate this campaign, and they will hate you, and they will hate the mastermind. But if you are going to, if you were like, yes, I want this to work, it might work with something like this, right? The mastermind has to give the players a plan. Like, he gives the players an objective and a plan at a high level. But then is like, you're perfectly competent. I've given you some extra equipment. Go take care of this for me. Like, I'm busy. Like, I've got so many other things I have to watch. Like, I need you to go do this thing. Here's some cool tech gadgets to take with you. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right. And, you can have some of those gadgets be like the kind of thing that saves the day at the last minute. Like, the players didn't know they were going to jump off a cliff, but like they, push the button on, Dr. Brilliant's gadget. And it like, it's an anti-grav bubble. Like,
Dun, dun, dun.
and later, Dr. Brilliant's like, yeah, I kind of figured if you were going to run, you'd run, towards the cliff. So I, whipped you up this thing. But again, you're walking this really fine line of like Deus Ex Machina and like Super GMPC. It's tricky. Like, you're going to have to be really careful about how you do it. I think probably one of the easiest tropes where you get away with this is cyberpunk AI.
Sure.
Like, you're working for a corporation. The AI is calling the shots on what to hit and when. You don't understand. Like, you don't understand why you like torched that restaurant, stole that bowl from the museum, and why you uploaded a virus to that tech company. But the AI knows. Yeah. And isn't telling you.
You can also get away with it easier if you've got currency in the game for the players to spend on like flashbacks or that type of mechanic. And it's like, well, of course, Dr. Brilliant gave us some kind of anti-grav device that would be useful in a situation like this. Here's your token, Then
that's what
it's the same thing.
That's actually what I was going for also.
Dr. Brilliant thought ahead, but the players are making the call.
Yes, which is player. It's player empowered. Yeah, I agree. Like, that's the thing you're trying to avoid, right? Like, don't depower your players when you do this.
That's exactly what I was going to go for. I started to think the same. I think it's important to have the mastermind be more of a patron. I think, Phil, you hit on the head when you said, oftentimes the mastermind is so, I don't want to say arrogant, but so wrapped up in themselves that the normal adventures the players that would get into are kind of beneath their notice for most part. I don't care that Nakatomi Plaza is about to blow up. I'm too focused on trying to save global warming. You guys go deal with it.
Yes.
And okay, here, and here, I'll turn on my teleporter and teleport you guys there. Keep you there. But I like Bob's idea, and that's what I was going to say, is spending some sort of luck token or heist token or something on that line to let the players decide how the mastermind saves them as they go. Helps also takes some of the heavy lifting off the GM.
Yes.
So,
and as we know, anything that removes player agency is a bad thing because players don't like it when their agency is taken away from them. So, all right, good stuff. That is our look at the mastermind. Let's take a break. We're going to check in with the chat room and see what they have to say. But first, let me tell you about The Lounge. Doc finds the best, the brightest, the most fun game designers and sits down to have a cool chat with them. You never know what conversation is going to come up in The Lounge. I need to talk to Doc because there's an episode of The Lounge out there with me, and I don't think it's ever been released.
The infamous
In the Void
episode of The Lounge.
That was like 3 years ago, I think, at Origins.
It was pretty long ago. You might want to do a new one.
Yeah, we might want to do that.
At this point, you might want to do a new one because, like, you're probably like a different person now.
Probably. All right. The chat room has been pretty focused with us on what's going on. Schmitty, of course, said, "Don't torch the Stuffer Shack," which you don't want to. You want to burn the restaurant down.
I mean, the Stuffer Shack is the first victim. Should be the first victim in any Shadowrun campaign. It's the 7-Eleven. It's actually usually the demo adventure in the shootout at Stuffer Shack.
Okay, I was just saying, what is Stuffer Shack?
It's like a convenience type store, like 7-Eleven.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the original Shadowrun book, and I think it's been in every version since then, there is a demo adventure that is a shootout in Stuffer Shack that will highlight, and I use that word in both connotations. Highlight the Shadowrun system.
Yes, because we all know that system needs highlighting.
Well, I mean, it needs a warning label. It's what it needs.
And
Yeah.
never let it be said that the Misdirected Mark podcast is not educational,
Mhm.
because thanks to our sub-boson particle discussion,
Mhm.
Schmitty has gone out and is reading now about a logical paradox called the tachyonic antitelephone.
Uh-oh. Is it got to do with tachyon particles? Because
That's some good
that
science
is
right
always, if I know anything from watching my Star Trek, if there's a rise in tachyon particles, you're about to have problems.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, man. All right.
And, I think one last thing. I think that Senda put it best when she said that the mastermind is smarter than anything you're going to find in Wikipedia. So
Yes.
keep that in mind.
In fact, the mastermind probably wrote Wikipedia as a joke to throw people off.
Mm-hmm.
Idiots.
Yeah.
It's like that's the whole like
Bunch of idiots. All right, let's jump into part 2, which is some of our favorite parts because it's the roundtable of questions.
Yay!
Starting with this question, Phil.
Yeah. Who is your favorite mastermind that you have run, that you've either run when you've GM'd or encountered when you played?
Okay. Probably my second favorite, so my first favorite is a Puppet Master for next week, would be Queen Leandra from my Mage Lands campaign back when I ran D&D 3.5. She was not actually the main villain for most of the campaign. She was somebody who was planning to use the party and the things that the main villain was doing. The main villain was a ancient empress who was trying to come back from the dead and do all sorts of things. But along the way, the actions of the party turned her into the main villain, where she started planning to use the magic that was being released and also some of the unique powers of the party to take over the Mage Lands. And she started out just with her own little plans for ruling her own kingdom and expanding her powers. And the more the party did, the more she adapted to it until she began to use some of their mistakes and then plan beyond that because she had the resources to take advantage of what was going on, and slowly but surely became more and more powerful. They would hear about things she was doing. She would send people against them. She sent her daughter to kill off some of the player characters, and then one of the player characters fell in love with the daughter, so that plan went to hell. And which is also excellent, but gradually built things up until they finally had to realize that she was the one that was really making their life more difficult than this possible rising Lich Queen that was coming in the possible future, which they also had to stop. But she was really the master planner, where the Lich Queen was just more of a super powerful entity they were going to have to fight at the end of the campaign. And it just worked very, very well because the players got to the point where she was the one they were really focused on. She was working politically, she was working economically, she was working magically, she was controlling their enemies, and not in any sort of subtle way. They knew that she was an enemy they had to deal with. She was just well beyond their power level for a very long time. And it worked very well to the point when they finally got to confront her, they were ready for a throwdown. And she planned for an awful lot of contingencies. What she did not plan on was one of the players dropping a cart on her from 3 stories up. That didn't work out. But I let that go. You know, you can't plan for everything. I'll talk about that later on also. So, Bob, who is your favorite mastermind you've either GM'd or encountered when you played?
Yeah, so I racked my brain trying to think of a great mastermind that I encountered in play, and I have to say it's the one that I hated the most, and that was the Wolf from Phil's Modern Heist campaign. We hated that guy so much.
I wonder. So it'll be interesting next week or in 2 weeks when we do the Puppet Master. We're going to have to talk about how the Puppet Master and Mastermind overlap at times, because the Wolf is a good example of. The Wolf was not extraordinarily brilliant, although he was very smart.
Yes.
But also was kind of a puppet master too. So, but I respect your choice of the Wolf. That guy was a major league jerk.
Oh yeah, he was a pain in the ass, and he derailed the whole campaign.
No. You know what? Okay. That's it. Get me my soapbox.
We've told this story before, but
here's the thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
I originally created the character as a nuisance for the players, right?
That he was.
All I wanted to do was explore the characters had gotten to a certain level in their careers where they were stealing some pretty big stuff. So they were getting recognized by like people in the underworld. So all I wanted to do was see if I leaned on them a little, what would happen, right? So the wolf originally just like came to them and was like, look, you're operating in my city. You're stealing a lot of shit. Give me 10% of what you steal. And that's it. We're good. And they went and had they met him and they totally botched the encounter with him.
Yep.
And then like spooked him because they said a bunch of stuff because they had done some research on who he might be. And then he was like, I got to go burn down my whole organization and ruin your lives, like, and takes off. And then you guys were like, you know what? Change of plans. We're killing the wolf. Which was,
we decided to take him down. I think the killing part really came right near the end where it was like,
the smug motherfucker is going down. Like, you stole all of his money. You kidnapped him. Yeah. And I think you were just going to rub it in and walk away. And then at some point, something changed and somebody put him face down on the dock and put a bullet through him.
It was on the beach. It was Sean's character.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was the brilliant in a different way about the wolf was, like Phil said, he wasn't particularly brilliant of mind. He was smart, but he had a really good plan. It was very sound. It didn't have any holes in it really, and he had a contingency for how to take care of it if something went wrong.
All right, I am going to rule he is a mastermind.
Yes, he is a mastermind. He had a contingency. Now, granted, Phil had to come up with that contingency after we blew everything. He's like, I'm not prepared for this.
Well, it was a case,
and I know he would be. So.
Exactly. It was a very good case for why you stop a game mid-game.
So that's mine.
Cool. I agree. It's good. When we do the Puppet Master, we'll have to talk about how you tell the difference between the two and where they overlap. Because there is a bit of an overlap, but it is very possible to have a Puppet Master who is not a genius by any means.
Yes.
Right. Yep. And also, a mastermind tends to also operate a little bit more out in the open. Most of the time?
Yeah, Puppet Master almost exclusively never does.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. My favorite mastermind would be the loop scientist, Lena, Dr. Lena. I forget her last name. Bob's character. What's it?
Lena Thelin.
Lena Thelin, who was Bob's character's aunt in the game. She was brilliant. She was bent on revenge, and she was beyond selfish. She was very angry about people not recognizing her genius. And her plan was to ignite the entire loop in plasma and burn it into the core of the earth to show them how unappreciated she was. And she was pretty out there. Like it was the loop. So her scientific stuff was like all over the place, like from controlling pigeons to attacking people to opening a portal to the prehistoric era. Like, she was everywhere, but she also had disintegrated Glenn's mother. But unbeknownst to her, there was a flaw in her algorithm for the disintegrator that she wrote, because it was part of a teleporter. And Glenn's mom was forming and reforming spontaneously all over the island, which was the whole arc of the campaign, was to get Glenn's mom and reform her back into a person. But anyway, I enjoyed Lena. She was a mastermind. She was brilliant. She was mad like a hatter. She was not well, as characters go. She was defeated and hauled off to jail at the end of the Tales campaign. Very good. It was very good indeed. Cool. All right, that was my favorite mastermind.
All right. Question 2. what's your biggest challenge in running or going up against Masterminds?
Yeah, so I thought about this one a little bit for a while too. And I think, honestly, for me as a player, it would be knowing when to let them get away. Mm-hmm. If they've gotten away before, or this is the first time it looks like they're going to get away, but more to the point, probably if they've gotten away at least once before and they've become a thorn in your side, and you're like, oh, no, you're not getting away this time. And you get that mentality of, it has to end now. We have to finish this. Yep. And you can totally risk exhausting resources and potentially lives in a futile effort to try and stop them when you really don't have a great opportunity to stop them. So you've got to, as a player, you got to recognize, like, we've just been fighting for like a half an hour. Everybody's beat. Like we're low on hit points, we're low on bullets, we're whatever, and it looks like they're gonna get away, and you start chasing them, and you're like, no, we gotta keep going. You gotta know when to go. Nope, there will be another chance. Next time we'll get them, and you gotta let them walk away, because if you push it too far, you could end up, you could end up screwing yourself. Or your friends.
I think also as a GM though, you've also got to be aware of the same thing, that you've got to decide when it's time to not have the villain get away. One of the players, when is it no longer fun for them for the villain to get away?
Yes.
When is it time to wrap that up? Because I've been in campaigns where the same thing happens, where you're at the point where, you know what, we're sick of this guy. It's no longer fun to encounter him and his machinations. It's now just annoying, not fun. And when you see that happen as a GM, you've got to decide, okay, it's time to let the bad guys end, let them capture him, or let them have a ridiculously major success that sets the bad guy back a long ways.
Yeah. And hopefully that's not like 2 instances. Like if you've met this guy once, he's gotten away, and then the next time it's like, oh, we're sick of this guy. Like, that doesn't feel like it had enough build-up.
Well, I'll talk about that when we get to mine, so go ahead.
Yeah. How about you, Phil?
Yeah. For me, I think it's the hard part is if you're doing like an arc level or campaign level villain, and the players thwart one of the encounters, right? Because you want a couple of thefts, whatever, where you're advancing the Masterminds plot. But if the players thwart too many of them, like they get ahead of this or whatever, then like you put the big plan at jeopardy, right? So you got to do this like balancing act where it's like the players have to meaningfully, like when the players encounter either the mastermind directly or their henchmen, there has to be a good enough encounter, and they can't keep losing, right? Because if they keep losing, they're just going to be like, what's the point of this, right? There's nothing we can do to stop this guy. He's just going to take whatever he wants. Why are we bothering? Yeah. So you gotta tune this so that it's, they're effective, but they're not going to stop them until we get to the big climax. Like the whole purpose of the mastermind arc is to do the, and now we know he's going to drill through the center of the earth. And clearly that will crack the earth in half because the mastermind, has overlooked something or whatever, or doesn't care, whatever. And we need to stop it. Right. So if you're doing like, it's coming up with that balance of like, yes, you stopped him at the museum, but he's going to need another win somewhere. And now I need to kind of like put that in the background while you went off and like, oh, you went to another dimension this week. Guess what? When you come back, there was a theft, right? Like it's that thing where how do you keep the big plan going when you've got players who are the heroes who are getting involved in this stuff? That's my big challenge. I will wind up doing a lot of between session fixing of things along the way. Like I will have to get in there and either retcon some stuff or make some adjustments or whatever based on how the players are doing in the arc.
Cool. Okay. All right. What about you, Jerry?
I have two things. As a GM, I work really hard to make them competent, but not so competent the heroes feel useless. I'll talk about how to do that mechanically in the next segment. But also make sure that when the villains' heroes do show up, that they also don't just one-shot the mastermind, depending on what your game system is. Because masterminds aren't always the most physical group, and you sometimes have to plan ahead and ahead and ahead. But like I said, I don't like the idea of the mastermind who knows everything about the heroes. If the heroes pull off something really brilliant, find a way to give them some level of success. And I'm going to go into that with the thing, because as a player, the first thing is always resist the urge to shoot them mid-monologue. Let the GM have their fun. I've played in a lot of games where the bad guy gets up to monologue and gets 2 words out, and so I shoot him. So he's like, I shoot him. Like, no, let him get his monologue off. First of all, let him get his monologue off, because the GM's going to have fun finally monologuing this big villain. Now, a GM who uses that monologue as a way to screw over the players because they're stalling for time, that's a different thing entirely. But let them have their monologue, and then be prepared to adapt your plan mid-assault. Always have a plan and a backup plan as a player, because the mastermind is going to have some contingency for them. But the last thing is, it's really tough not to get frustrated with the way some GMs run masterminds. I've been in a campaign where there's a mastermind, and we always succeeded at stopping something minor that was a distraction while the mastermind showed up yet again, got away, and succeeded at their big plan. To the point where if the mastermind gets involved, the players got to feel like, it doesn't matter what we do because the mastermind's always going to win. No matter what we do, the mastermind wins. And as a player, that gets frustrating. So as a player and as a GM, you want to make sure that the players have some successes that are meaningful successes. Yay, we stopped the bank robbery, but the bad guy got away with the death cannon. Okay.
Or even we got the death cannon, and now the bad guy will come around and come up with something else that they need.
Oh no, I'm talking blatantly, like every time you succeed at stopping the bank robbery, the villain actually was trying to do something else.
It's essentially every player-facing plan of the mastermind is the ruse to cover up the actual plan in the background. And so the players are never actually stopping the big plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
You really should only
do that once.
Yes, I was going to say, you only get that card once in your deck.
Yeah. And like I said, if the players don't feel like they're succeeding at something, or if the players feel that the mastermind is so far above them they can't succeed, they'll get frustrated and just say the hell with it. Or in our case, we'll start talking about maybe joining the mastermind, because obviously he's got
this guy's got his shit together. Let's go work for him.
Does he have dental?
Yeah. Or if not, we'll have enough money that we pay for our own dental. So
yeah. You know what? He's got his shit together, and the group we're working for obviously doesn't.
Wait a minute. He's got a Zeppelin bass? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go work for this guy.
Isn't that the Dr. No character from that one episode of The Simpsons? Like he's
Scorpio.
Isn't it like Scorpio's got like a 401k? And
Yep. Homer, I understand. But I wouldn't mind if you shoot a couple people on the way up. That's what you want to look at.
All right.
So
now on to what has become the favorite new question of this particular segment. What is your secret sauce for running masterminds?
All right. First, sit down and decide, what does the mastermind know about the heroes? What can they plan for? What are they going to be able to outwit? What abilities of the heroes are they going to be able to outsmart, outmaneuver, whatever? And then decide what they don't know. Always have something that they don't know about the heroes. They don't know that one of the characters carries around, a whole bunch of exploding charms, blow pops, or whatever. But your mastermind knows a lot, but should never, ever know everything. Give the heroes a chance to surprise them. When one of your players pulls something out, sometimes the player's going to pull something up that you forgot about. Sometimes it's okay to have the mastermind. If it's something obvious, yes, the mastermind would know that you always carry, silver bullets in your gun is one thing. But if the players do something surprising, let them surprise the villain. And show the surprise of, oh, interesting. I didn't think about that. he can still succeed and get away with it, but give the heroes that success. There's nothing better on your player's face when they think they're up against somebody who's got them figured out and somebody does something unusual and you as a GM are surprised and the villain is surprised at the same time. Let it happen. Second, I like to use the reverse heist mechanics. We've talked in past shows about how different games have heist mechanics, backflash bennies, whatever. I like to give the villain a whole stack of those and use them and let the players know, hey, listen, I've planned for a bunch of stuff, and the mastermind also has a whole stack of these that he's just going to pull out to come up with new ideas. And just play one, be prepared for that, and then they go. And when he runs out of that stack of bennies, then the hero's about smarter than him. If the hero players keep coming up with ways to outsmart the mastermind, and you run out of these planning bennies, now's the time to let one of the players' plans succeed. Still let them get away, but give them that success. And thirdly, plot it out. As a GM, I like to make sure it's certain that the villain has more than one contingency plan, and preferably different ones each time that aren't too outrageous. Right now, it's not really Mastermind, but I'm running an Eberron campaign that involves a vampire and his sister who turns invisible. And they've pulled the I turn to smoke, she turns invisible thing twice now. They've done it twice. It's time for them to stop doing that the next time the players show up. Do something different with it. Because it's no fun for the players to know that every time they encounter this guy, he's just going to be able to get away again. So I know a lot of my thoughts here seem to be less about making the mastermind competent and more about making him fair to the players. And I'm doing that because as the GM, we have control over everything. We can always make something happen. And I've seen this get, I don't want to say abused, but I've seen this get misused by GMs who don't know when to give the players a chance to succeed.
Yeah, I that's a lot of good points, right? Mm-hmm. The real balancing act to the mastermind is the mastermind has to be challenging to the players, but defeatable, right? Like otherwise it's pointless. And if you look at, don't look at Ocean's 11 because again, Danny Ocean's the protagonist. But if you look at all the other ones that we gave at the beginning, inevitably they all have a weakness, make a mistake, whatever, right? Like there's inevitably something that trips them up that allows you to get the jump on them. And usually that's the puzzle box part of the mastermind is in order to defeat the mastermind, you really have to come to understand their motivation. Because once you understand their motivation, you will understand how to manipulate them. And they are not impossible to manipulate. They may be brilliant, but they'll be suckers if if you quash their ego or if you know that they're, doing this to bring back, their lost love and you, head them off by figuring out where the big plan's leading to. Like the mastermind is as much of an opposition as they are in ways a puzzle box. In order to defeat the mastermind, you must understand the mastermind.
Yep. And sometimes you have to allow the players, sometimes they will come up with a ridiculously stupid plan that the mastermind wouldn't come up with. Real shortly, I had a campaign that involved time travel, and everything was set off when the bad guy went to their base and got into a fight there, and in the fight, blew up something that ended up causing a rift in a bunch of other issues because of something that was going on there. And the players thought this whole thing out and thought, you know what? We know when this is going to happen. Everything we try to do keeps it from happening. What if we just blow up our base first? What if we just destroy everything we own? That way he can't come and do. I'm like, you know what? He wouldn't have thought of that part. He wouldn't have thought anybody would be dumb enough to blow up all their good shit. And they did.
Yeah, there you go.
He had a different plan. It was stupid, but I'm like, he would not have thought of that. Because why would they do that? Because now they're at a disadvantage against them. But they figured it out. So, yeah, go with that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Sometimes you gotta have a radical idea.
So, Phil, what is your secret sauce?
So I think I'll pick two as well. My first one is I'm a stickler about understanding the psychology of my mastermind, right? I think I tipped my hand when I said it. The mastermind is a puzzle box, right? If you want the shortcut to defeating this mastermind, you really have to understand what they're up to. They may look like an egomaniac, they may whatever, but ultimately you're going to find out like they're looking for accolades from somebody, something. Once you can throw them off their game, get them to take your bait or or you fake them out, or you draw them into what is an obvious trap, but they can't resist it because you know their psychology. Like, that's how you get them. So I like to make my masterminds with a bit of a background, with some amount of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to be able to get that out through henchmen, through other contacts and things like that. And that will be how the players will eventually figure out what they're up to. And then my other secret sauce, and I put this earlier in the notes, I love disparate shit, right? Like, I love when seemingly unrelated shit comes together in some way and you're like, what? Like, why is that even a thing? So I will put a little extra work into figuring out how to do that, to make it more interesting, to make it more fun. I will pick some really weird intermediate goals that don't seem to have anything to do with each other. And then in like the third act, all of a sudden, like it starts to fall, like the pieces fall in place just in time for the players to be like, holy shit. Even better if I can get the players in one or two of the adventures to have actually done the work. Like, they got a tip for a seemingly unrelated adventure and captured or defeated some bad guy, only to find out that was a necessary piece for the mastermind to create a power vacuum to take over that organization. But needed the PC heroes to go take that guy out for them. Right? I love when the players find out that somehow they were actually part of the mastermind's plan.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you hadn't taken my bait and defeated the trapster, like, I would never have been able to infiltrate, the Sinister Six or something. Taking some liberties on that one. Although I think I got those two correct, right? Sinister Six and Trapster?
Nope, Frightful Four.
Frightful Four.
Yeah, but you were in the right universe at least.
Paste guy.
Universe, yes.
Fucking paste guy.
Paste Pot Pete.
Pot Pete.
Oh boy.
I got a gun.
Anyway, yeah, so I love those two things, right? I love the psychology of the mastermind, because I loathe mustache twirling villains. I like my villains to be have some good psychology. And again, I go back to Die Hard, the moment where Holly figures out exactly who Hans Gruber is. Right? And he just he lurches right at her, right? Because you see it, like, she rattled him, right? For all his coolness, the second she calls him a common thief. And that's when we see, like, his biggest problem is ego.
Yep.
Right? And he gets right in her face and he's like, I am an exceptional thief. Right?
Moving up the kidnapping.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, that it's that moment, right? Like, Holly figures him out. And that's how, ultimately, that's how he gets defeated, right? His ego trips him up when McClane shows up at the end.
Yeah.
Right? He gets smart. He thinks he's got the drop on McClane. He's being all smart about it. Right? And ultimately his ego is his weakness. To me, that's my secret sauce. I'll tie it off.
Yep. That's
good stuff.
Nope, that's good. All right. Bob, anything else to add?
No, I think we're good there.
All right. Well, that's our review of the Mastermind.
Yeah, we hope that the next time you want to use one in your game, you'll put some of this advice to use. We hope it's been helpful and that you can, put some of it into play.
All right. We're going to take one more trip into the chat room and then off to the conversation corner for us. And I've got the perfect ending to this in the chat room from our wonderful friend Andy Fox, Professor Fox, the crafty DM.
Yep.
She thinks that this is a lot of prep to run a mastermind. And I'm thinking, could you perhaps build some shortcuts or shorthand at the beginning of your prep to help you go quicker as you go along?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Start with a bunch of note cards. And as things go on, just like we talked about last week with Conspiracy, I'd say start with a bunch of note cards And as you build the story, just keep track of those note cards as they go. What's going on? What's being done? Who's behind it all? You don't have to have your mastermind have everything planned out at the beginning if you're more of an improv GM and don't like to do a lot of prep. Build it as you go, but just keep track of your notes so that you're consistent with what the mastermind's doing. You could have 5 different disparate adventures going on. Maybe they do have to, maybe he is trying to get that bottle of wine. You don't know what it's for. You just know that down the line it's going to make sense. And then you just need to tie it in together. And sometimes use the player's own paranoia to fuel the adventure. They'll tell you what the mastermind's planning. Good, go ahead. Take it and tweak it a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact. But don't be afraid to let your players come up with some really good plans that push your mastermind together. Because if they think it's good and you take it and move it just a little bit to the left or the right so they're not dead on, they'll think it's so much more brilliant because they'll think they came up with it. And it works really well. Uh-huh. That's my suggestion for that. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll say that from a prep point of view, the mastermind is certainly over the long run going to be a little more prep than some of the other types of opposition we've talked about or going to talk about. I think that you don't have to do it all up front, like Jerry said. I think that if you rough out a couple of details about them, because remember, when the players first encounter the mastermind, they're not going to know that much about. They're not going to have a chance to learn that much. Now, caveat to that is if you're using a mastermind for a story, single story, right? You got to kind of detail it out enough to fill in like enough for the story. But if you're detailing the mastermind for an arc or campaign, as we like to say on Pandas, you have time on your side. So you don't have to do all this work up front. But it wouldn't hurt. My quick 2-minute version of the mastermind is motivation and motivation and first project. Because the first project never has to be like if you're doing an arc or a campaign. The first project that the characters thwart does not have to be part of the big project. Sometimes that's the test balloon, right? Sometimes this is just the one-off they did because they need a couple extra resources, like they're going to rob a bank, steal a jewel, whatever. Sometimes they do it because they're bored, right? You do that one and you don't really have anything developed. And then in between sessions, you just start building, you build up the mastermind, which is also really good because if you do it between sessions, you're pulling stuff that's happened in the sessions. So now, like if the players have made an enemy of Dr. Melt, your mastermind is now friends with Dr. Melt or is in an alliance with Dr. Melt because, and if you had done all that up front and did a whole bunch of work, you wouldn't be able to pull on that. No. As opposed to just building along the way. So I'm not going to lie. I do think there's a little extra work. Jerry hit on part of it, right? Consistency is a big deal for the mastermind. If the mastermind has a single overarching plan, it is entirely possible to make a mastermind who just likes stealing money or art or whatever and just keeps showing up for a while to steal stuff until there's like a really cool, rare piece of art. And then you're like, well, fuck, we know he's coming for that thing. Yeah. Time for the big showdown.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of a slight reverse to that. If you put in a little bit of extra prep work up front, let's say, for example, you're going to run a mastermind and this mastermind is going to be part of the whole campaign. It's going to be like the overarching thing for a whole campaign. If you sit down at the front end and you think to yourself, okay, they're going to have multiple escape plans. Let's put a list of different escape plans and contingencies and write them all down, brainstorm some of those up front. And then you get to like session 5 and you're like, all right, they're going to need an escape plan for this. Let's go with number 5 on my list. Bam. You didn't have to come up with it there because you already came up with it before. Yep. So you could give yourself some clues, some shorthand shortcuts to get you through some of your down the road prep by doing a little brainstorming up front with some of the things that are consistent with a mastermind type character. So you've got your contingency plans, maybe the MacGuffin devices. Here's a list of different MacGuffin devices that we could be looking at. Here's a list of different, make yourself a bunch of different lists that you can just cherry pick from as you're putting your session notes together and be like, boom, 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 madly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes to your preference, right? If your preference is like, hey, I'd like, I have some time, to make up this character now. I'll put a bunch of stuff into it and then I coast off of that material, right? That's a front loaded one. So you can really do it a whole bunch of different ways. Bob's idea of front loading is great. You put in the initial work up front and then you kind of coast off of it and maybe replace it. Like after you use Escape Plan 5, replace Escape Plan 5 with a new one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other way is you could do like a rolling one, which is like, just evolve them as you play them. Because the other thing might be that the players don't find them interesting, right?
Yep.
If the players don't find the villain that interesting, like then just you fade them out, right? Just play it a little bit and just be like, or let them get captured, right?
Yeah.
Like
they were actually a lieutenant for the real mastermind.
Yes. That is always yes.
Yeah.
But hence, and in 2 weeks, the puppet master, right? I'm trying to think of some other categories. We're gonna do some brainstorming later of some other kind of categories of bad guys. We'll put the chat room, we'll put the Slack room, we'll put a bunch of people to work on different ones we can talk about.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. That is the thing with the thing. Let's swing on over to the conversation corner. All right. Here we are. So lately, in addition to watching Rebels with my Star Wars portion of the watching, in addition to stacking Star Wars with my Star Trek, I'm doing double stars. I also just finished up Hellstrom on Hulu, which was interesting. There's some interesting stuff going on in there, and I'm very curious to see if they drop a second season. They haven't said anything yet. One of the things that I saw in media circles was it was a one-shot kind of thing. But again, that's going to depend on what the numbers were on Hulu. If the watch numbers were high enough, they might be like, let's do another one, or they might have had a contingency like, for now we're just going to leave it, but we know what we want to do if we go for a season 2 or whatever. They left it open. For a season 2, clearly they seeded a bunch of stuff, so they didn't just flat end it. So they definitely have thoughts in mind, but right now there's no indication that there's going to be a season 2, which is mildly disappointing at this point. But super excited about the watch party tonight because, as Phil said, the episodes that we've got on tap, I can't remember what the names of them are off the top of my head, but I know when I looked at the list, I was like, well, that's going to be a good watch party. So that'll be fun.
It is a challenge at times to know how to pace the episodes for the week so that the watch parties tend to land on like really good episodes.
Yeah.
So I mean, there have been times, I mean, you've seen it where like all of a sudden when there's only 4 episodes this week, it's like, yes, because we have to watch Worf all together as a family. Like,
yes.
So there is this thing where I make the list and then I start and I try, right? Like the thing I really try for is like we watch 2 on Tuesday and then I try to like 1 a day up to Sunday, right? Like I give like 1 extra wiggle day at the least, right? Sometimes more, but I'm sit there and I'm like, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Is that a good watch party episode? Can I shift? Rarely do I hit a dud. But there's
clearly a challenge. And I myself personally, I think I speak for everyone when I say we appreciate greatly the effort that you've been putting into these to organize the whole thing and coordinate it. So
it was super fun to do, right? It was super fun to do it. I'm happy to do it. Like it's a labor of love to put these lists together and to kind of, do the discussions on the board about like why, like Jerry noted Sword of Kalis isn't a great episode. It's not spectacular, but it is really important because it introduces Worf to Core.
Yeah.
And that is a much bigger deal than the actual episode.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to just watch some of those episodes for that reason, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at that myself and thought I actually liked the opening of that episode more than the ending. I like the opening when you get to see Worf and Core meet each other for the first time and how they react.
And it also gives you more of the crossing over the personalities of Dax and Worf, because you've already been exposed to Dax's connection to the Klingons and their culture and everything. And now you've got Worf on the show, and it's like, wait, we got to see how that comes together.
Absolutely.
And so anything that helps push that arc along is also good stuff.
It's clear that the writing room for DS9 is big on Klingons.
Oh, yeah.
Because starting in season 4 and never ending, the Klingons are like there is no shortage of Klingon stories in the rest of this series.
And finally for me, I'm jonesing for Friday because 3 days from now, The Mandalorian season 2 drops their first episode. So I'll be like, yay! And I get to start watching that because there's going to be some good shit there.
And from what I understand, because they're not trying to dance around a Star Wars movie, they're going to be pretty much one a week. They're not going to have like a couple skip weeks in between. I think that I saw the schedule. I think there's only one skip week in the whole thing. So
yeah, I forgot to look and see if there was anything up with the schedule. Generally, they try to, with that show and some of the other ones, they try to drop one a week. They definitely don't do the binge thing. Like, here's all the episodes, just go to town. And I'm kind of glad they don't, because I would burn through them in a day and then be like, "Where's more?" Now at least I get to taste a little bit every week.
That's called TV.
Yeah, that's called TV.
It's
funny how that works, isn't it?
Have you the meme of the guy walking down the street staring at the staring with the one girl staring at the other girl, and it's the girl that's walking away is streaming series that only come out once a week, and the girl standing behind him is cable television.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Oh man. All right. Well, that's me.
Funny. Yep.
What about you, Phil?
Yeah. So sadly, I haven't been riding as much. We've reached the time in Buffalo where it just keeps raining. So I haven't gotten too many rides in, and that's starting to make me sad. I'm trying to figure out what to do as an alternative. Like I really need to ride. I don't think I can swing a full exercise bike in cost. I say that, but I also haven't looked at like aftermarket, like Facebook or whatever. But I really need something because bike riding has turned out to be really good cardio for me without busting up my already shitty ankles. And I'm now starting to be sad about it. But stuff I did that was positive. Still playing Minecraft. I am ridiculously deep into the stone block pack, and I am hell bent on finishing it. Like I am going to finish this pack. It has a quest system. I am going to finish all the quests. I'm going to get check marks for all of them. And it is requiring some really bonkers level stuff. Like this end game stuff is really big. I am building all sorts of large scale devices, things like that. It is very different from some of our other Minecrafts. Like I don't really fight monsters ever.
Okay.
I don't even leave my base very much anymore. I'm now resource independent. I require no. I'm literally completing the objectives by figuring out how to build all the stuff I need to build. But I am in full completionist mode, so I'm going to finish this mod pack. So I'm playing that. I dabbled. I know people have been talking to me about it on Twitter and stuff. I dabbled with Classic Traveler. Again, this kind of malaise about gaming right now. Like, I love the games that we're playing, And I'm still excited about. I actually am still excited about Numenera. The problem I'm having with Numenera is the volume of Numenera. Like my indie side of me is like, I am longing for games that are like 96 pages long, right? Like staple bound 96 page 80s like looking games, not 80s games, because they're mostly not that good. But I just like, I got into a thing where I did a bunch of like, I went and got PDFs of the Classic Traveler books. I started reading them, and I'm like, you can like just feel this game is dated. Yeah. Like it just there's no doubt. Like I started reading it, I'm like, this is quaint, whatever, and I'm like, these mechanics they're fine. They're not exceptional. I see where this game is playable, but I also see where this game isn't really that. From a mechanical point of view, it's not really that exciting. No. Character generation's exciting. Like character generation's fun, but the rest of it not that exciting. So I'm like just poking through like all my game books. Like I don't know. Like I don't even know what I'm looking for at this point. Like I want to be excited about a game. I said this a couple months ago. Like I really want to be somebody else's fanboy for a little while. Like I like designing my own games and stuff, and I like, I like playing my games and things like that, but I want to be like kind of a ridiculous fanboy for somebody's game. And then the other thing is Bob's got it just came in the other day, the World Builder books that we ordered. And I'm like, well, what world am I going to put in this World Builder book? Like I don't know. Like what kind of game or world do I want? Like that book's going to sit and haunt me for a while because I legitimately can't think of what I want to put into it. So anyway, I've been like flitting through things. I had a lot of problems with my sleep system since I've been really stressed out this last month. I started to slowly rebuild it. I picked up for nighttime reading because I was reading Numenera in the evening, but that book is dense, man. Like it's good. I like the game a lot, but like those rule books are dense. So for lighter reading, I grabbed my copy of The Peripheral by Gibson off my shelf and was like, I'm going to reread The Peripheral, and then I'm going to order the new book. I forget which, The Agency, I think is the agency, or The Agency, I think is the name of his latest book that came out, I think in January. I think everybody knows I'm a huge William Gibson nerd. I've read The Peripheral before. I really liked it. I really just want to read it again. So, Anyway, so I did that, played Minecraft. I haven't played any Hades lately, and I've been pretty much just watching Star Trek stuff. And I think I've been watching too much news. Like I've been watching like MSNBC and stuff like that in the evenings, and I gotta leave that shit alone. Like the news is not a happy place for me. So anyway, I don't know. And I didn't make anything terribly exciting over the weekend, although I got an idea. I got a recipe this week for breakfast bombs, which are so scramble up some eggs, cheese, bacon, sausage, whatever. Take biscuits, stretch them out a little, put a little of everything in them, close up the biscuit, flip it upside down, put it in a pan, brush them all with a little butter, or melted butter, and then hit them with some everything bagel seasoning, and then throw them in the oven and cook them. Okay. And then just like a little ball of biscuit with eggs and bacon and like some green onions and stuff all inside.
Nice.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna make that on the weekends. Like I like on Sundays, like to make something more elaborate than my same breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. Like I have literally the same breakfast every morning except for Sundays.
I mix it up now. I've got my frittata down to the point where I can do it with my eyes closed practically now. So
nice.
Every weekend I'm pretty much making a frittata, and then I eat it. Like I'll make it on Sunday morning. I'll eat a quarter of it, and then the other 3/4 each go into a container and one goes in the fridge, 2 go in the freezer, and then during the week I'll pull one out again. And that offsets my normal, like, make some eggs and put them in a burrito. And
yeah, mine have been during work days. I normally actually eat breakfast at work. I have some unsweetened almond milk there, and I normally have that over like some honey bunches of oats or something like that while I'm working on my projects. During the weekend, Sunday we make like egg white omelets and things like that. And then Saturdays, by the time I end up rolling one on Saturdays, it's lunchtime anyway. So it's leftover Chinese food.
I make brunch every. I make brunch all weekend long, for both Saturday and Sunday. But I do love. The nice thing about working at home is since I don't have to commute, I make an omelet and toast every morning for breakfast. But then on Sundays, I've challenged myself to you got to make something that's not that. Change it up, make something exciting.
Put some variety into it. Give yourself a little challenge.
I now have a recipe for a really good everything bagel breakfast casserole that I really like. And it's, I scaled it down so I can make it primarily for me. And then have like you said, Bob, I can have a day or two's worth of leftovers.
Yeah.
That I just, reheat the next morning for breakfast. Good stuff. Yep. Oh, and my scallion pancakes. I learned that recipe from Senda. The scallion pancakes and dumplings, which is a once every 4 or 5 week Sunday morning tradition for me. Love it.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. What's up with you, Jerry?
Well, we had our second session of Kids on Bikes run by the amazing Glenn Seiler this week. It's been very, very good. Glenn chose to make the powered character a robot, which has been very interesting because we're just trying to figure out how to make it work, keep it powered up and the like. I'm playing the jock, which is interesting, just having a good time, and trying to juggle both saving the character, or not saving the party, but being part of the party and interacting with them, and at the same time also trying to stay on the football team has been challenging. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool.
We played another session of Chris's Call of Cthulhu game this week. And that was dark and interesting. We are definitely getting involved with a lot of strangeness. Chris runs a more pulpy Call of Cthulhu game, so the stakes are higher, but we have a better chance of surviving, so it's been a lot of fun. I did some more Lego building this week, just a lot of little sets, some restaurants, put together the Lego store that I got when I bought my cantina. Those of you who are on Facebook may have seen some pictures of those. It's just been a lot of fun, a nice way to relax every night. I had to go out of town this week, so I had one whole night that I was stuck in a rather crappy hotel with bad internet access. So I brought along the Genesis rulebook and decided to start rereading the Genesis rulebook just to familiarize myself with the rules again. It's something I'd like to get back into running again. I'm not sure which setting I like to use, but I like the system, and it might be fun to get into. So that's just been kind of nice. Like you, I was riding my bike for a while and only got out twice this last week because we had torrential rain, blowing winds, and everything, and often just, when it's 41 degrees outside and damp and drizzling, it's just not the day to go riding.
Yeah, I have gear for riding when it's cold. My gear is not really waterproof, and I'm pretty sure that even if it was, I would just be miserable. Riding. It's also a lot more dangerous to drive when you're in that. Yeah, I'm really not about falling off my bike. Falling is not really one of my strong suits.
Nope.
Says the guy with the bionic arm.
Yeah. And just kind of played around with some food. Lily's been cooking up some really interesting things. I actually had a funny thing where I went out of town, and on the way back, I decided to swing by Long John Silver's and grab some chicken planks. And then I walk in the house, and she's made her famous meatball soup. So I'm like, because I'm freezing these chicken planks, because I will always take homemade soup over fast food any day of the week. So that was delicious and amazing. So
that reminds me, I need to make some ramen one of these days this week.
I've had the weirdest.
She also made, just real quick, she also made her sausage bake, which is it's basically sausage that's been kind of crisped up in a pan, and carrots and onions and potatoes and celery, all put in a bake and then put in the oven, and then you sop it up with a little bit of bread, or in my case, I used one of the small pretzels. So
nice.
So good. You were saying, Phil? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've had like this really ridiculous craving for McDonald's. Like, I don't love McDonald's at all, but like, I just the other day I was like, I really could have like a double cheeseburger and some McNuggets. Like it just like I've been eating like pretty well all pandemic, but like in the back of my head, all of a sudden I'm like, I could eat some McNuggets, man. Like,
I just got a notification from the app that I think all this week, I'll have to double check it, but I thought it was all this week. It's BOGO on McNuggets if you order from the app.
Ah, mother.
And I'm like, I could eat 20 McNuggets and then be like, where'd all those calories go? Shit.
The last time I ate a 20-piece McNugget was Gen Con. Back in Indy when the McDonald's was in the bottom of the, what was that, the Hilton or the Hyatt? Remember that used to be on the ground floor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the Subway that ran out of bread the first year, yeah.
Yes. That McDonald's ran out of a whole bunch of shit too that first year. They didn't know what, like, the ATMs ran out of money.
Yep. They had no idea what they were up against.
It was pretty funny. Those first couple years when they moved to Indy were actually a lot of fun because the first year or two, those restaurants had no idea how to scale up.
Yeah.
Well, I remember going to Albany once when I went to a Boston market that ran out of chicken.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'm like, that's a pretty serious failure on your part. So
I think the other night, Senda went to was about to order from Panera, and they were out of bread. Like they were out of baguette. No, they were out of, like, how are you Panera and out of baguettes? Like,
yeah.
Like you have seriously mismanaged your day. Like,
yep. Gotta go with that.
Yeah.
Although the other thing, I'll tell you the other thing I had, I think it was on last Friday, and I have no regrets, is I had some KFC.
I was thinking about that earlier too, yeah.
Some fried chicken, man. Like,
did you try the fries?
Yeah, I tried. I got the fly fries. They were decent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they weren't earth shattering for me, but they're better than their potato wedge things that they.
Yes,
I like those way better than the potato wedges, and honestly, those fries are better than McDonald's and Burger King fries to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you like those are like the batter dipped.
I like the coated ones. Yeah,
those are the only coated fries I like. I hate coated fries most of the time.
Who's got a Raising Cane's? Andy? Oh, Raising Cane's is amazing. Mm-hmm. The Raising Cane's sauce is delicious. I have a copycat recipe for how to make that Raising Cane's sauce for chicken tenders. Mm-hmm. It is delicious.
And that's all they do is tenders, chicken strips?
And then primarily, it's like garlic toast, French fries, and homemade chicken strips. It's good.
Cool.
I've had it. I had it in Dallas. It's good.
Cool.
It's good. If Raising Cane showed up here, I would definitely get some chicken strips.
You know, it'd be nice if they put in Buffalo here, like a hot chicken takeover.
No.
You just have to get the naked one, Phil. It's good chicken.
I would, because even the mild one had bad effects. Not like the time I ate the hot one.
Yeah.
That was
just a mistake.
It was a mistake in retrospect.
Yeah.
It was a mistake minutes after we started eating it. Yeah. Any place that gives away free drinks and as much free ranch as you want.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but there's something about New York State. There's a bunch of restaurants that stop at the Pennsylvania border and don't come here.
Yeah.
And, we don't have Waffle House. We don't have, it's only recently that Perkins came back. We don't have a lot and it's just something about, I don't know if it's I
don't know if we need Waffle House, but.
Oh, Waffle House is great.
I mean, we have IHOP and,
it's not Waffle House.
Yeah, IHOP is the sad pretender to Waffle House.
Yeah.
Waffle House is the place you go at like 6 a.m. or 3 a.m, where you are just like, I want to eat something. Nothing fancy, just going to eat
for
this.
Me, I go there because I want a waffle, and they make waffles, and they will. And see, I've never been there at like 2 a.m. But so I understand that it's a different clientele and apparently a different group of people, that work there, but I've never had bad service or bad food at Waffle House. IHOP, there have been times that I've had trouble just getting food at all.
Yeah. Waffle House Waffle House is not a place that tolerates inefficiency. No. A manager at Waffle House could fend off a zombie apocalypse. Like, they are extremely capable. I believe to be the manager of Waffle House, you have to be able to do any job in the Waffle House at any moment. Like. Yeah.
All right, we are squarely in aftershow territory already,
let's roll.
We should probably roll this. Before I do the Patreon shout-outs, though, it occurred to me that there may be one more announcement.
I've seen a couple things go by. You want to do a couple end-of-show announcements?
Yeah, I was just thinking because of the in our closing, we mentioned a particular show.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's it'll be news everywhere by the time by the time this drops. But the announcement went out today, I think, to patrons the day before, that She's a Super Geek is concluding its very successful run.
Yes.
A fantastic show. Obviously one near and dear to all of our hearts.
It will be missed.
It will be missed, but if you read the statement, I think that they can squarely say mission accomplished. There is now a new mission.
Yep. And
here is the person who's going to take up the banner for the next leg of this.
Yep.
I think it was an incredibly, it was a great statement. And truthfully, it was, I mean, obviously I, talked to Sunda and Andy, like, projects end.
Yeah.
Like projects, like campaigns, projects end. We don't do them all forever, and, not for anybody to panic about this show, but this show has an ending.
We have an ending in mind, yeah.
We have an ending in mind, and at some point we'll close in on it. And we'll talk about that when the day comes, but projects end and new projects arise. Pandas isn't going anywhere in the foreseeable future, especially because we've stripped out all of the hard parts of it. And Andy's on redemption, so it's not like they're disappearing.
Yeah. And the new show should be good stuff.
Yes.
Yep. I think it's in the early building stages. Yeah, we'll learn more maybe
about
a little
that later.
Yep. I think we'll hear news about it as it goes along. But yeah, I think what you call it? I think, it's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
At some point you've done, once you've done everything you think you've done, it's okay. It's a weird feeling. A lot of us, a lot of us are geared, and the analogy to this is like people start running a campaign, like, I'm gonna run this game forever. I'm gonna be like one of those people who runs like 25 years of D&D. Like, at some time it's okay to end.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not like Senda and Andy are going away forever. It's just that particular show is changing.
Yep.
Absolutely
going away. Yep. So.
All right. So that's that.
Yeah. So big hearts.
Right.
Yes.
Big hearts. We love them very much.
Big hearts.
Patreon shout outs. Thank you to the old school DM, our very own Sean Merwin from Download D&D, Troy Sandlin, Will Doyle, Zach Goins, Chris Constantine, Cindy Moore, Eric Mengi, Eric Simon, and Mirko Frolik. Thank you for being patrons, and thank you to everyone for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If your arch nemesis has managed to keep you from watching the live show, check us out on our podcast each week, wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bones Thrown Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Hannah's Talking Games, the Gnome Cast, John Crew Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcast, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming NBS.
Before you head into your final confrontation to stop the Masterminds' big plan, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly via the old-fashioned email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com, or hit us up on Twitter. The show in the network is @misdirectedmark. This is Robert M. Everson. This is GM Gerrymander. And I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is still currently at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhanghu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhanghu Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Pandas Talking Games, bonus outtakes, and other occasional special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out!